The hate is real. The hate is real, Kathy. I see you hating on us from a mile away, Kathy Engelbert. We all see it. You out here trying to find Caitlin Clark. You out here finding the one person who's actually bringing money into this league. What a joke. You're mad that the Indiana Fever are here right now. Y'all didn't expect us to get this far.
The WNBA has once again managed to prove it seems the WNBA will stop at nothing to get in its own way. Just when you think the league is finally ready to embrace its newfound superstardom, its leadership manages to prove why so many people question their judgment. And this latest move isn't just a bad call, it's an act of self-sabotage that targets the very person responsible for their recent success, the golden goose who has laid nothing but golden eggs since the day she was drafted. Instead of protecting their greatest asset, they chose to punish her.
Y'all really didn't expect it. We got Sophie Cunningham exposing the whole league agenda. Exposing them. Caitlin Clark mocking them all on Twitter, all on Instagram, everywhere, because they are...
The league has punished its biggest star, Caitlin Clark, for committing the ultimate crime, saying something everyone was already thinking. For the grand offense of a four-word joke on Instagram, the WNBA hit Clark with a $200 fine. Let that sink in for a moment. The generational talent who has sold out arenas, shattered viewership records, and made women's basketball a primetime event was reprimanded not for a dirty play, not for unsportsmanlike conduct, but for a comment that simply read, "Refs couldn't stop us." This wasn't a calculated attack. It was a simple, humorous observation made in the heat of a celebratory moment.
So during the game, we saw here, the Fever players celebrating. I would assume based on the reaction that this was after the Lexi Hull steal and everything. And Caitlin Clark on Instagram commented this: "Refs couldn't stop us. Elite bench mob. It wasn't for the lack of trying. Glad they're having fun and celebrating like no other teams. Will she get fined for saying that? Yeah, she got fined."
What makes this decision so much more baffling is the timing. Clark's team, the Indiana Fever, was in the middle of a stunning Cinderella story playoff run, all while she was forced to watch from the sidelines with a season-ending injury. They had just pulled off a massive upset against the Las Vegas Aces, the league's two-time reigning champions, in their own building. This was the kind of underdog story that builds legends, the exact narrative the WNBA should have been shouting from the rooftops. But that wasn't what they chose to focus on.
When you're on the WNBA's time, or the NFL's time, or the NBA's time, when you're on their time, criticizing the officials, calling out the officiating, I've seen players get fined for that. But when you're on your own time, well, now, other than Sophie Cunningham, Caitlin Clark seems to be the two players that come to my mind of players getting fined, criticizing the officials, doing it on their own time, quote unquote, off the clock.
Instead of celebrating the incredible grit of the Fever, the league's commissioner, Kathy Engelbert, and her office decided the most pressing issue was a comment buried on an Instagram post. While a feel-good story was captivating the sports world, the league's leadership was acting like petty hall monitors, scrolling through social media feeds to find a reason to punish the most popular player in the sport. It's a move that doesn't just reek of insecurity. It paints a picture of a front office completely disconnected from the fans and the players who are actually driving its growth.
You guys, today, Caitlin Clark got fined $200. Kathy, what do you think you are accomplishing by that? What kind of message do you think you're accomplishing by doing? You're not even making an example out of her by finding her an exorbitant amount of money. You are literally making a joke out of yourself by finding her such a little.
Let's be crystal clear about what actually happened here. After a massive playoff victory, the Fever's official team account posted a photo celebrating their bench players who had stepped up in a huge way. Clark, dressed in street clothes but locked in with her team, jumped into the comments to hype up her teammates. Her first comment was pure support. Elite bench mob. Her second was the one that triggered the league's bizarre response. Refs couldn't stop us. That was no profanity, no personal attacks. Just a cheeky line that echoed the frustrations of millions of fans who had watched questionable calls all season long.
What world do we live in? Like, I'm pretty sure she just said the refs can't stop them celebrating. This isn't even her going at refs. It's literally like if you say the word refs and you're an Indiana Fever player, you're going to get fined. If you say the word refs as a Fever player, the word referees has to be spoken, cannot be said by an Indiana Fever player, otherwise it's a fine. And the worst part is if they got fined for celebrating. So I don't think, only she got fined, not everybody. There's other people on the floor, everything. She's not, like, they're celebrating, the timeout's been called, or the foul's been called, it is what it is.
The hypocrisy on display here is staggering. This is the exact same league that stood by silently while Clark was subjected to cheap shots and overly physical fouls all year long, plays clearly designed to intimidate her. Officials consistently turned a blind eye to flagrant, dangerous contact that would have earned immediate ejections in any other professional league. They allowed her to be hip-checked, shouldered, and thrown to the floor with little to no consequence. But a four-word comment on social media, that apparently was the final straw that crossed the line. This isn't about upholding standards. It's about selective enforcement, and it exposes a deeply flawed and biased system.
And we know how this works because Sophie Cunningham has told us how this works. If you talk about the refereeing, if you talk about the officiating, you know, on the InstaFace, on the TikToks, on the Twitters, any of that social media, in the public, in the interview, if you mouth it in the shower, Kathy Engelbert will peek in and look around at you and point at you and be like, you're fined. Even though she won't clean up the officiating in her trash-ass league? Okay.
Perhaps the most bizarre and revealing part of this entire fiasco is that Clark wasn't even playing. She's been out with a groin injury since July, forced to become a cheerleader and mentor from the bench. Yet, even while sidelined and physically unable to impact the game, she somehow became the target of the league's disciplinary action. What does that tell you? It reveals that the WNBA isn't just failing to protect its stars on the court, it's actively trying to silence them off it. Clark's reaction on Twitter said everything that needed to be said. A screenshot of the comment with the caption, "Got fined $200 for this LOL," punctuated by laughing emojis. She took their attempt at authority and turned it into a complete joke.
The WNBA definitely got to play these women more. You got to pay these women more. Because what the hell is a $200 fine? This picture right here is giving me Mom Made Pizza Rolls vibes. Mom Made Pizza Rolls and everybody. Ah! Caitlin Clark was fined $200 for her comments she left on the IG post. She said refs couldn't stop us, meaning they advanced to the next round despite the refs trying to throw them a curveball every game, despite having to play against the refs. And the league said, "Oh hell no, nah. You gotta run me that 200. You got to run me that 200."
Of course, the $200 fine is nothing more than pocket change for an athlete with millions of dollars in endorsement deals from Nike, Gatorade, and State Farm. The financial penalty is completely irrelevant, and the league knows it. This was never about the money. It was a message. The WNBA wasn't trying to hurt her wallet. They were trying to put her in her place, sending a clear, unambiguous warning to her and every other player in the league. Do not question our authority. But the message completely and spectacularly backfired on them.
That Sophie has got jokes. She retweeted this. That's really going to break the bank for her. Starting a GoFundMe now. Sophie, you got jokes. Hun, you got jokes. Yeah, so Sophie Cunningham Central, I'll donate.
What the WNBA fails to understand is that their attempt at control looks absolutely foolish when you put it next to numbers. Clark's arrival has injected hundreds of millions of dollars into the women's basketball ecosystem. Attendance is up nearly 80% across the league when the Fever come to town. TV ratings have shattered all previous records, with games on major networks pulling in audiences that rival men's professional sports. Merchandise with her name on it has sold out in minutes. She is a one-woman economic stimulus package for a league that has struggled for mainstream relevance for decades. And their response to this unprecedented boom is to fine her an amount so pathetic, it becomes a punchline. They are biting the hand that feeds them, and they don't even seem to realize it.
Rather than fining players for being excited on the bench and for letting it be known how trash your referees are, why don't you start fining referees for not calling fouls? Why don't you start putting that type of energy into making sure the game is played better? Why don't you do that? Why don't you do that? Because that would be nice. That would be nice if you could do that.
This move is a classic example of the protect the shield fallacy, a corporate mindset seen in older, more established leagues, like the NFL, where any criticism of the officiating is seen as an attack on the integrity of the entire institution. The league office believes that by silencing dissent, they are projecting an image of strength and control. But what they are actually doing is admitting their own fragility. A strong, confident league embraces criticism and uses it to improve its product. A weak, insecure league silences its biggest stars out of fear. The WNBA's actions here aren't a sign of a league protecting its integrity. It's the sign of a league terrified of being exposed.
The physicality is out of control, that's for sure. I mean, you can bump and grab a wide receiver in the NFL for those first 5 yards, but you can do it in the W for the whole half court. You put two hands on somebody like that, it should be an automatic foul. They have the freedom of movement. Freedom of movement. There's no freedom. And I'm not saying that we're not fouling too. I'm not saying that. I'm saying it's out of control.
Instead of intimidating Clark, the fine only amplified her point and put a massive, unavoidable spotlight on the league's deepest problem. The WNBA has an officiating crisis, and now, thanks to this controversy, the whole world knows it. Inconsistent calls, blown whistles in critical moments, and a general lack of control from the referees have been plaguing the game all season. By punishing Clark for simply mentioning it, the league didn't solve the problem. They just proved her right in the most public and embarrassing way imaginable.
What if this is the WNBA foreshadowing? We're seeing how you're acting on the bench. We're seeing how you're talking to the officials on the bench. We will tee you up. Now, whether I think that she deserves a tee for it or not, we're not even going to get into that. What if this is just saying, hey, we're going to tee you up if you continue to get at the officials, if you continue to talk up the officials, if you continue to show up the officials on the sideline, we're going to tee you up.
Clark isn't some lone wolf crying out in the wilderness. Respected coaches and players across the league have been voicing the exact same concerns for months, if not years. Even Becky Hammon, the celebrated coach of the Las Vegas Aces, has publicly stated that the quality of officiating across the league is embarrassing and needs a complete overhaul. When your most successful and established figures are calling out the broken system, you have a serious systemic issue. But the WNBA's answer is always the same. Slap a fine, punish the messenger, and pretend the problem doesn't exist, all while protecting the flawed system at all costs.
The Aces couldn't stop her. I actually don't think that the Aces perimeter, honestly, defense or offense is very good, but specifically defense, they just couldn't find an answer for Kelsey. They were sending two on her at different times, but the Fever were running cutters. Kelsey was making her way to the rim. Now, I will say the Aces defense is scary around the rim because you have somebody like Asia who averages over 2 blocks a game, and she's just there waiting and ready to block your shot if you get too close to the rim. But Kelsey Mitchell, I mean, she was just finding her spots, getting to her lanes, hitting those open threes, all of the things.
This fine completely overshadowed the incredible story that was playing out on the court. The Indiana Fever, disaided by injuries and counted out by everyone, were making a miracle run. They fought their way into the semifinals for the first time in nearly a decade, knocking off higher-seeded teams and shocking the world with their resilience. They marched into Las Vegas and stunned the two-time champion Aces in Game 1. A dominant road victory fueled by pure determination and a 34-point explosion from Kelsey Mitchell. That should have been the only headline.
All the money that Caitlin Clark has generated for this league, all the tickets sold, all the jerseys, all the record revenue of the ratings, the television deal, and they're going to put their hands in her pocket for $200 for this. I'm like, hey man, do we need to call the armored guard? Do we need to have all this? And we need to deliver it directly to Kathy Engelbert's office. As a matter of fact, Caitlin Clark herself should be able to make an appearance, and she should do how Ice Cube did, when he used to run up into record labels. I'm saying, bring a bat. Caitlin, bring a bat. Bring the black Air Force.
Instead, the dominant narrative became about the league's bizarre and tone-deaf decision-making. At the very same time, the WNBA was celebrating A'ja Wilson as its MVP for a record fourth time. It was punishing the sport's biggest draw for a harmless social media comment. On one side, you have the league's established, polished favorite being showered with accolades. On the other, you have the disruptive force of nature who brings in all the ratings and new fans, being told to sit down and be quiet. The double standard was blatant and impossible to ignore. It painted a clear picture of an establishment trying to control a revolution.
Madness. It is madness, and I mean this. Like, the amount of people that are like, "Oh, I hate this team." It's like, why? They're excessively celebrating. They're excessively celebrating. They're not there talking down on other teams. They're not doing the Alyssa Thomas. They're not doing a Phoenix Mercury and shit talking other teams' fans. They're not doing Phoenix Mercury and shit talking the other team's players, their coaches, their all of this stuff. And then when they lose, they're silent and they dodge everything. Hell no, they're just celebrating. They're just celebrating. They actually find somebody for saying refs can't stop. The refs won't stop us.
The irony is almost too perfect to be real. Clark's comment, "refs couldn't stop us," became a self-fulfilling prophecy when her teammates marched into Las Vegas and did just that, steamrolling the league's darlings in their own arena. A smart, modern sports league would have leaned into that drama immediately, marketing it as the ultimate underdog story, fueled by a superstar's sideline passion. But the WNBA chose to turn a golden marketing opportunity into another public relations disaster about their own incompetence. It's a masterclass in how to kill your own momentum. This isn't an isolated incident. It's part of a disturbing pattern of mismanagement. This is the same league that dragged its feet for years on the issue of charter flights, forcing its world-class athletes to deal with commercial travel headaches and security risks, until Clark's celebrity made the issue too big to ignore. It's a league that has consistently struggled with marketing its other stars, only waking up when a phenomenon like Clark fell into their lap. This fine isn't a one-off mistake. It's another symptom of a leadership that is reactive instead of proactive, and consistently fails to understand the modern sports landscape. But this entire ordeal only serves to prove why Caitlin Clark is so much more than just a basketball player. She is a cultural force, and she cannot be contained by old guard sports bureaucracy. She refused to be silenced or intimidated. She laughed off their petty fine, rallied her team, and showed the world that she won't bow to a system that seems determined to hold the sport back. Her authenticity is precisely why she connects with millions of fans, and it's the one thing the league office simply cannot control or replicate. In the end, this wasn't just a fine, it was a choice. The WNBA had a gut and opportunity to champion an incredible story of resilience, teamwork, and heart. Instead, they chose to make headlines for their own pettiness and thin-skinned leadership. The message they sent is loud and unavoidable. Under this regime, control is more important than growth, and authority matters more than accountability. The question now is, how many more opportunities will they waste before they finally realize that the future of their league won't be secured by silencing Caitlin Clark, but by finally starting to listen to her?